good friends, Bobcat here in the Art Mind studio. Wanted to show you some of the progress I've made on this beautiful, delicious machine here. Changed all three sets of bearings. Let me roll this back here. Changed all three sets of bearings, the dampers, new sprocket, new chain with a clip master link, new brake pads, cleaned up and painted all of this gold because I like it, and it will go lovely with the next paint choice when I do the white frame and the red cables and all of that. And now I'm going to start working on the front wheel. I've already taken it off and I'm going to knock out the bearings today. I'm going to try and show you how to do that. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but I'm going to link a good video in the comments description about, from a different motorcycle, but the same principle, about how I knock the bearings out of the back and how I'm going to knock the bearings out of the front. And the back wheel, there are three different bearings. The two on the wheel hub are the same size. The one on the, I don't know what this officially part's called, but the thing that the sprocket's attached to is a slightly different size. The center size is the same because it has the same axle running all the way through it, but the outer diameter is just slightly different. Fortunately, this one only has two bearings and they're the same size. But just a quick idea about how this is done. So you have bearing on one side, a bearing on the other, and in between is a small piece of pipe. I'm not sure what it's called exactly, beyond just a piece of pipe that sits perfectly between the two bearings on the inside of the hub, right there. And I guess supports the two bearings to keep them from getting crushed in and distorted. I don't know. But that is the key to tapping the bearings out from the inside. And that video has a great demonstration of how it's done. Kudos to them for doing it. But basically, you take your screwdriver, or if you have an even more appropriate tool, I just use a big old flathead screwdriver, shove it down in there, and then shift that little pipe just a little bit, and you tap the bearing on the inside, and I'll clip in some close-ups of all the parts when it's out. You tap the bearing on the inside, down a little bit, shift the pipe the opposite direction, tap it down, and you kind of go back and forth, tapping downward from different directions. Because if you just hammer down on one side, this bearing will get torqued, twisted in place, and you will never get it out. So take your time. My biggest lesson from doing the backside was take your time. This is not a race. These are from where the bearing sits. Where the bearing sits right in here, there's no clearance, there's no tolerance. There can't be. It's got to be a super snug fit. So you don't want to twist it in place, you don't want to damage it. Just take your time, tapping out in different directions, and then we'll clip in a little bit later at how you put the new bearings back in. And I did put these bearings in the freezer when I shoved this in. I actually left all the parts sitting out in bright sunlight. They got nice and hot, which expands the metal a little bit. And I put the bearings in the freezer, which shrinks the metal a little bit, and then used some lovely just paste grease from my favorite auto parts store on the outside of that. And gently tap, but working a little faster because you want to do it before the temperatures change. And just tap that back in on one side, using the old bearings as a guide. Tap that back in, and that video is really super helpful. So I'm going to extract these bearings, prep the wheel for painting, paint this thing, and paint the brake disc, and hopefully my new bearings will come later today. It is Saturday, August 15th. Hopefully they'll come later today, and I can install the bearings tomorrow or Monday, and then shove this thing back together. And then I'll be riding on solid gold. Let's go. I'm using really fine, I think this is like quadruple zero steel wool to clean and prep the surface on the brake disc that I'm going to paint. And I just left this part undone because I wanted to show you. I'm using this really cool stuff. It's 1/4 inch masking tape for art. It's 1/4 inch masking tape, and I'm using that to follow the contours much more closely. And then just using this regular old big 2-inch painter's tape to cover over the rest of it. I do not want paint on the surface that the brake pads actually grab on, because that might make braking worse. So this is the side that faces out. This is the side, I don't know how well you can see it, that faces this metal hub right here. And there's just a thin spot here that I'm not going to paint. I'm not going to bother to paint this side because it's going to sit on this, unless I get bored and change my mind. I might. But yeah, so this side faces there, and I'm going to do the same prep. If I decide to paint it, do the same prep on this side, masking tape, and hang it up, spray paint that thing. Ta-da! Ta-da! So, due to mechanical, electrical, and personal failures, I wasn't able to get video of me reinstalling the bearings, but watch this video that I've linked down here below, and you really get the gist of it. It's pretty straightforward, it's a pain in the butt, but you can absolutely do it yourself. And you can see, I did it. I did end up painting both sides of the brake disc, prepped the wheel, painted that, shoved in the new bearings, and took it for a test ride today, which was pretty cool. Discovered some things along the way. There were some noises in the drivetrain. I think it was the drivetrain. There were some noises in the drivetrain on the old sprocket and chain. At about 25 miles an hour, I'd hear this ch-ch-ch-ch down here. And didn't know what it was. Didn't feel like it was affecting the performance any, but when the engine was just, when the drivetrain was running, but it wasn't really under any kind of load, it was making this weird clicking sound. That's gone. Other good stuff, the wobble, distinct wobble that I had at about 35 miles an hour is gone. Problem is, it's now like 55 miles an hour. I wish I could understand how that worked. Somehow I changed the resonance. I think it's just because the front wheel is just ever so slightly bent. I did check the air pressure in both tires before I actually took it on the test drive. It is noticeably faster. It is able to get up to higher speeds in each gear. Didn't feel like I was riding a hive full of angry bees at about 75, 80 miles an hour. So good stuff on that. Problem that I discovered was I forked up the brakes. I think the back brakes just need to be adjusted. I don't really have a basis for what they should be, so there's, down here, there's a bolt or a nut that I can just progressively tighten it, and I'm just going to have to ride, tighten it, test it, ride, tighten it, test it, to get to where the brakes are. The rear brakes are pretty good. The front brakes are all of a sudden like pudding soft. which I think I just need to bleed them. But beyond that, if we were playing D&D, I would say this was a mixed success. So, making progress. I just ordered the new LED turn signal relay, the digital relay versus the analog relay. And if you're going to upgrade your incandescent turn signal lights to LEDs, you've got to replace the relay, and the relay is right here. Well, this is the fuse. It's right here, right in front of the battery. So that's where it is on the 2003 Honda Shadow VT750DC. So I ordered a new one of those, 20 bucks. It's supposedly plug and play, and have to do that before I can upgrade the turn signals on the front and back to LEDs. Going to get those plasma bars. Basically, I'm going to put the relay in, make sure it works in the incandescents, and then if that works, if that's golden, then I'm going to chop this bad boy off in the back and start that custom framework there with the new rear LED bits, and order the horse skull for the front, order the new headlight for the front, and go from there. I did stop by my local Honda dealership to just get a ballpark estimate of what it's going to take, because I need a new clutch. It's wearing out. To get to this, I got to take these off, and mine are pretty rusty, so I'm going to need new pipes, and I want to upgrade the pipes too for a little better performance. So need new pipes. When you're upgrading your pipes, upgrade your air intake and the carburetor jets, and just to do the clutch, right? So stop by the dealership, and they're ballparking about 2,500 bucks for that. No small change, but I'd rather them kind of do that all at once, get this bike in great performance, then take it back, and then do the red wiring harness, red hoses, do more aesthetic upgrades. But anyway, that's where we are. I hope you are safe, loved, and well-fed wherever you are. I miss you all terribly, and I cannot wait to see you again. I'm on call for ye old day job this week, so I'm trying to get this video out a little bit early. Might not get to a video next week. It's supposed to get hot again, and I'm probably going to be sweating myself to death in your attic or your basement trying to keep you cool, and just might not get to a video next weekend. So anyway, to quote Shade Tree Surgeon, keep it weird.